Hello everyone, if you're new to my channel, consider liking and subscribing. It will make me feel wonderful if you do that. Thanks. By the way, I also have another Naruto and Luffy fanfiction channel. If you are interested, link is in the description.
Shadows and Serpentes by Alenthedragon. This is a fan fiction about what if Luffy eat a different devil fruit instead of the gum fruit. He will have the dragon fruit, model dragon of darkness and shadows. He is joined by Hancock, who is his age here, and has a different fruit as well. Hope you like it. Adios.
The time had come for Luffy and Hancock to embark on their long-awaited journey, the sun shining bright over Shanks' ship as the crew prepared for departure. Excitement and anticipation flowed through the air, but there was also a sense of bittersweetness. Shanks gathered the two in a heartfelt embrace, his warmth enveloping them both. "Luffy, as you set out on your adventure, I wanted to give you something," Shanks said, stepping back to look at his nephew, his eyes filled with pride. "I wanted to give you my straw hat, but I realize now that with your dragon form, it might not survive." Luffy nodded, a touch of disappointment coloring his excitement. "Yeah, I wouldn't want to destroy it. It means a lot. Instead, I had a blade made for you," Shanks continued, gesturing to a beautifully crafted sword lying close by. The blade gleamed like a diamond under the sun, its craftsmanship exquisite and sharp. Luffy's eyes widened in awe as he took the sword in hand. "It's incredible," he exclaimed, examining the polished steel. Though it bore no name yet, a spark of inspiration hit him. "I call it Day Slicer. It's perfect." Shanks smiled, pleased with Luffy's choice. "May it help you carve your path as you chase your dreams." Hancock stepped forward, her heart pounding from the warmth of the moment. Shanks turned to her, presenting another gift, a beautiful pair of gold snake earrings adorned with sparkling rubies that resembled eyes. "For you, Hancock." "Oh, Shanks," she gasped, touched by the thoughtful gesture. "Thank you, they're stunning." She carefully fastened the earrings, feeling a sense of empowerment wash over her. "You deserve it, and don't you forget, stay strong and fierce out there," Shanks said, his expression sincere. With hearts full of gratitude, Luffy and Hancock hugged Shanks tightly one last time, and the bond they shared felt more potent than ever. As the time to leave approached, Luffy closed his eyes, taking a deep breath as he began to transform into his dragon form. Towering above them at an impressive height of 7 meters, his scales glistened in the sunlight, and the air crackled with anticipation. Hancock climbed onto Luffy's back, her heart racing as she found her spot, steadying herself as Luffy spread his wings. "Are you ready for this?" he asked, excitement buzzing in his voice. "Absolutely. Let's start our adventure," she smiled, gripping onto the dragon's scales. With a mighty roar, Luffy launched into the sky, his wings propelling them high above the ship. The crew cheered below, their calls of encouragement fading as the two soared towards the horizon. The wind whipped past them, and as they flew over the vast expanse of ocean, they felt liberated, ready to embrace the unknown. East Blue lay ahead, and Luffy's home island awaited them. As they glided through the clouds, Luffy couldn't help but feel an exhilarating sense of freedom and purpose. With Hancock by his side and his new sword ready for whatever lay ahead, he was prepared to embrace the trials, adventures, and challenges that awaited them. As they glided effortlessly over the shimmering waters toward the East Blue, the excitement of their upcoming journey simmered between Hancock and Luffy. The majestic scenery unfurled beneath them, the blue waves dancing in harmony with the wind. With the vast ocean stretching out before them, it felt like a world of possibilities awaited. Hancock nestled comfortably against Luffy's scales, her heart racing with anticipation. "So, what's the plan once we reach the East Blue?" she asked, her tone laced with determination. "We should probably decide on our approach." Luffy nodded, taking her interest to heart. "Yeah, since East Blue is the weakest sea, it'll be easier for us to recruit a crew without drawing too much attention. If we keep our devil fruit powers in check until Paradise in the Grand Line, we can establish ourselves without causing a ruckus." "Good thinking," Hancock replied, feeling a rush of pride at Luffy's strategic mindset. "But we need to consider the type of crew members we'll need if we're going to make it through." "Definitely," Luffy agreed, enthusiasm bubbling up inside him. "To start, we need a helmsman who can navigate through tricky waters, a skilled navigator who knows the sea and tides. We'll also need a cook, someone to keep us fueled on our adventures." Hancock chuckled at the thought. And it wouldn't hurt to have a sniper, someone to protect our crew from a distance. Exactly. Luffy added with a grin. We should also look for a skilled medic or doctor. That way, we can ensure that everyone's taken care of if things go south. Well, I assume we can recruit the rest when we reach Paradise, Hancock supplied. Things like a quartermaster to handle the supplies, a historian to record our journey, and deckhands to help keep the ship running smoothly. Right. Luffy nodded, feeling more excited about the prospect of building their crew. It'll be cool to have a full crew to go on adventures with. We can share the load and experience all kinds of crazy stuff together. As they continued their flight over the East Blue, Hancock stroked Salome, who lounged comfortably on the dragon's back. Salome, could you please hand me the wanted posters of infamous pirates in this region? She asked, her voice both commanding and gentle. The large white snake raised her head and gently retrieved the posters, coiling herself to lay them before Hancock. As she spread them out, Hancock scanned the names and bounties listed on the faded parchment. Look at this, Hancock scoffed, shaking her head at the posters. These weaklings barely even register. The highest bounty is for a pirate named Arlong the Shark, set at a meager 20 million belly. Pathetic. Luffy couldn't help but smirk at the thought. They're so weak that none of them even know hockey. They'll be easy pickings, he said, his excitement bubbling as they plotted their course. Hancock nodded. Exactly. If we're going to make a name for ourselves, we need to clear out all of the high bounties here. It's the perfect opportunity to establish our reputations before heading further into the Grand Line. Right. Luffy agreed, his eyes shining with enthusiasm. Shanks told us to check on his friend Buggy too. While Lilith thinks he's an idiot, he could still provide some intel, and we might be able to recruit him for our crew. They continued brainstorming when Hancock felt a thought bubble up. Luffy, how much money do we have at our disposal right now? Luffy looked thoughtful for a moment. I didn't count yet. Hancock chuckled at Luffy's innocence before responding, we have around 800 million belly at our disposal, thanks to the bounties we've accumulated during our time with Shanks. We also have 5 devil fruits we've collected over the years. We could sell or give them to our new crew members to help make them stronger. Exactly, Luffy agreed, feeling invigorated. We can provide our future crew with a solid foundation and give them a fighting chance. Hancock was still processing the overwhelming prospect of Ace challenging Whitebeard himself and later joining him as one of his commanders. I still can't believe Ace would challenge Whitebeard, Hancock said incredulously, shaking her head. That's just reckless. He lost to him, and now he's one of his commanders. It's so risky. Luffy chuckled, trying to ease her worries. Hancock, Ace knows what he's doing. He's strong, and Whitebeard is a good man. They'll look out for each other. Besides, he's able to hold his own. Hancock sighed, though a smile broke through. I suppose you're right. I just worry, especially with how powerful the other emperors are. Luffy nodded, thoughtful as he scratched his head. Yeah, we can't say the same about the other 2 emperors, Big Mom and Kaido. He paused, his expression serious. Kaido even tried to force me to become his subordinate when he learned about my devil fruit. It was only thanks to Shanks and Whitebeard that I was able to back him down. They're not to be messed with. Think what they're capable of, Hancock agreed, a shiver running down her spine. Big Mom sought an alliance with Shanks by trying to arrange a marriage between me and one of her sons. Luffy raised an eyebrow, intrigued. Seriously? You'd have to marry one of them. Hancock grimaced, her expression reflecting genuine repulsion. The thought of that makes my skin crawl. I didn't want any part of it. I only love you, Luffy. Besides, I would never let myself be forced into a situation like that. Luffy felt warmth spread through him, lightly touched by her declaration. He grinned, his heart racing. I'd never let you do that either. We're pirates, and we choose our own paths. Exactly, Hancock said, her spirit rekindled. I want to write my own fate, just as you will. I'm not some pawn for them to manipulate. It's our lives to live. As they flew through the bright blue sky, the excitement of their journey kept Luffy and Hancock in high spirits. But suddenly, a low growl pierced the air, Luffy's stomach grumbling loudly, betraying his intense hunger. Oh man, I am so hungry, he exclaimed, clutching his midsection dramatically, adding to the comedic effect. Hancock sighed, her tone exasperated but lighthearted. You and that stomach of yours. Honestly, you're always hungry, Luffy. Hearing her remark, Luffy replied with a playful grin, oh really? Let me remind you, I've been flying for the past 5 days, stopping only to sleep and eat. Plus, you're the one who's always munching on sweets. Hancock quickly tried to deny it, but Luffy was persistent. Oh really? Don't think I haven't noticed the bag of cookies you have in your hand right now. Caught off guard, Hancock jumped slightly, instinctively hiding the cookies behind her back with a guilty expression. So what if I do? All girls like sweets. And don't look at me, focus on flying. You told me we should be getting to Dawn Island in 30 minutes so you can eat there. Alright, I'll focus. Luffy chuckled, still amused by her flustered reaction. But he made a mental note. Once they established their crew, he'd find a pastry chef to keep Hancock's sweet tooth satisfied. She deserved it for all her hard work and strength alongside him. As they continued their journey, Luffy kept an eye on the horizon, while Hancock, feeling emboldened, peeked back at her cookies, contemplating just one more bite before stashing them away again. Just a little nibble wouldn't hurt, she thought slyly. Hey, no sneaking cookies. We're flying and preparing for our adventure with focus. Luffy teased, glancing back with a grin, sensing her thoughts. I can multitask. She shot back playfully, knowing he was onto her but unable to control the smirk tugging at her lips. The back and forth banter continued as they neared Dawn Island, each playful jab bringing them closer together. The sun glittered off the waves below them, creating a beautiful tapestry of colors, but all Luffy could think about was the food waiting for them on shore. As they neared Dawn Island, Luffy's excitement bubbled over like a child waiting for their favorite holiday. It had been 12 long years since he had last seen Makino, his older sister figure and a beloved part of his childhood memories. The moment they landed outside of Fusa village, Luffy quickly transformed back into his human form, anxious to see her again. As they walked into the village, all eyes turned toward them. Some villagers stared in awe, frightened by Salame's presence, while the girls were captivated by Luffy's charm, and the men were utterly spellbound by Hancock's beauty. It was a scene that would have made Luffy chuckle if he weren't so eager to get to the bar. Come on, let's not keep Makino waiting, he exclaimed, heading toward the familiar building that held so many memories for him. Upon entering the bar, lodging and laughter filled the air, and Luffy inhaled the aromas that wrapped around him like a warm hug. He spotted Makino in the back, but before he could call out to her, she was already emerging. Hey, coming, she called back teasingly, before stepping into full view of the bar. As her eyes scanned the room, they landed on Luffy first, surprise washing over her. However, as she looked closer, recognition dawned. Luffy. Her voice softened, filled with disbelief. Is that really you? Long time no see. Luffy grinned widely, the familiar warmth of her presence flooding back memories of comfort and love. Wow, you've grown, she replied, stepping forward, her eyes glistening with tears of joy. She rushed over to embrace him tightly. It's so good to see you. I missed you, Makino. Luffy said softly, returning the embrace with equal warmth. As they pulled apart, Hancock stood slightly behind Luffy, observing the reunion with a sense of respect and gratitude for the connection they shared. Luffy noticed and introduced her. Oh, this is Hancock. She's my partner and, well, you know. Makino smiled warmly at Hancock, her demeanor welcoming. It's wonderful to meet you, Hancock. Luffy speaks highly of you. Hancock nodded, a hint of shyness creeping into her as she replied, it's an honor, Makino. Thank you for taking care of Luffy when he was younger. Just then, Luffy's stomach growled loudly, reminding them he was starving. Can I get some food, please? I'll have some rum and a large meat platter. He called, grinning at the thought of what awaited him. I'll have some rum as well, Hancock added. And don't forget some cake for me, please. Oh, and some raw meat for Salome too. Makino chuckled, her heart warmed by the lively banter. Coming right up. As she went back into the kitchen to prepare their orders, Luffy turned to Hancock, the corners of his lips still upturned from the excitement of their reunion. You'll love her cooking. It's the best. As they waited, Luffy's eyes wandered around the bar, catching glimpses of villagers chatting and enjoying their meals. The atmosphere was cheerful and lively, a stark contrast to the intensity of their recent battles and training. A moment later, Makino returned with glasses of rum and a massive platter of meat, setting them down in front of Luffy and Hancock with a proud grin. "Here you go. Dig in." As they began to eat, a mix of laughter, stories, and memories flowed freely between them. Luffy recounted tales of their adventures, while Hancock engaged warmly with Makino, appreciating the connection she had with Luffy's past. As dawn broke over the tranquil waters of the East Blue, Luffy and Hancock sat together in a small boat that Luffy had purchased in Fusa village. The sunlight sparkled across the surface of the ocean, creating a picturesque backdrop for their morning adventure. "Why are we on this small boat?" Hancock asked, a hint of annoyance in her voice. "Wouldn't it be easier to fly?" Luffy chuckled, a playful grin spreading across his face. "Yes, but this is much more fun. Plus, you know that I love you," he said, leaning in and planting a kiss on her lips. "But I'm not your horse, you know." Okay. Hancock laughed, clearly enjoying their playful banter. "But we were lucky earlier to not get caught in those whirlpools." "Yes, we were. Thank God both of us know some navigation," Luffy replied, his demeanor brightening despite the earlier annoyance. Suddenly, their conversation was cut short as a series of gunshots erupted in the distance. Their heads snapped toward the sound, and they squinted into the sunlight, spotting a large cruise ship under attack. "There!" Luffy exclaimed, pointing toward the commotion. "Looks like we found some trouble." Hancock's heart raced, adrenaline sparking within her. "Oh, what's that? Is that?" she started, but stopped when she recognized the ship. "That hideous pink ship, I think that belongs to a low-level pirate named Alvida, the Iron Mace. She's notorious here, but she only has a bounty of 5 million belly." Luffy rubbed his chin thoughtfully. "Well, I guess we could stretch our legs. This should be over in less than 3 minutes," he said, his excitement bubbling over. On the deck of the cruise ship, chaos erupted as Alvida's crew rummaged through the belongings of terrified passengers. Alvida, a tall, imposing woman with a hefty frame, strode among her frightened men. Her unkempt hair and oversized weapons only emphasized her brutish appearance as she barked orders at her lackeys. "Who is the most beautiful woman in the East Blue?" she asked, a twisted pride in her voice. Her men, eager to stay in her good graces, shouted in unison, "You are, Lady Alvida." Suddenly, two voices erupted from above, the unmistakable sounds of laughter that echoed over the chaos. Luffy and Hancock had arrived, taking in the scene with bemused expressions. "Wait, you think she's the most beautiful woman in the East Blue?" Luffy laughed out loud, pointing at Alvida. "Don't make me laugh, you look like a beach walrus." Hancock joined in the laughter, unable to contain herself. Luffy's boldness stunned the crew, while Alvida turned a deep shade of red with rage. "What did you say, you brat?" she shouted, fury bubbling within her. "I said you look like a beach walrus." Luffy teased back. "Or do you prefer to be called an overweight hippo? Your choice." Alvida's face twisted in anger, her pride wounded as she failed to comprehend this audacity. "Kill them. Get those fools," she ordered her crew, fury dripping from her words. Hancock and Luffy exchanged quick glances, ready for what was to come. But before the crew could reach them, Luffy unleashed a small blast of his Conqueror's haki, channeling it with precision. A powerful wave rolled through the deck, and instantly, every pirate except Alvida toppled over in unconscious heaps, unable to withstand the overwhelming presence. Hancock stood by Luffy's side, equally impressed by the display. "Well done, but next time leave some for me." But as they surveyed the scene, Luffy's eyes narrowed when he noticed something unexpected. There, beneath a pile of unconscious men, lay a small boy with pink hair, seemingly untouched by the blast. He sat up slowly, rubbing his eyes in confusion while glancing at the duo towering over him. Luffy knelt down beside the boy, a warm smile breaking across his face. "What's your name, kid?" he asked, genuinely curious about the young boy who seemed so out of place among the chaos. "Kobe, sir. My name is Kobe," the boy replied, his voice shaky with apprehension. "Please don't hurt me. I'm just a cabin boy." Luffy chuckled lightly, shaking his head. "Don't worry, I won't hurt you. But I've got to ask, what are you doing with that fat ass over there?" He gestured over to Alvida, who was still seething with anger. "You don't look like a pirate." Kobe's cheeks flushed a deep shade of red as he stammered. "Well, sir, I'm an orphan. 2 years ago, I mistakenly boarded this ship thinking it was a fishing boat, and Alvida forced me to be her cabin boy ever since." At that revelation, both Hancock and Luffy burst into laughter, unable to hold it back. "Oh my goodness," Hancock exclaimed, wiping a tear from her eye. "You mistook a pirate ship for a fishing boat. That's hilarious." Luffy nodded, still chuckling. "Man, you were really dumb. But it's funny." Kobe felt heat creep up his neck in embarrassment, his face burning. "I just wanted to disappear," he mumbled under his breath, wishing to sink into the ground. "Hey, don't take it too hard," Luffy said, positive energy radiating from him. "At least you're not scared of pirates anymore, right? You're already braver than most." Kobe glanced up, uncertainty in his eyes, but the brightness in Luffy's tone made him feel somewhat reassured. "I guess so." Hancock softened, kneeling beside Luffy. "And now you're free. You don't have to deal with Alvida any longer. You can choose your own path. If you're interested, you could join us." Luffy's expression became animated. "Yeah, we're going to build an awesome crew. You could be part of it, Kobe." Kobe's eyes widened in surprise. "Me? Join you? But I'm just a cabin boy." "Don't sell yourself short. You fought through being a cabin boy on a pirate ship. You've got guts," Luffy encouraged, standing tall, confidence radiating off him. "Just think, out there, you'll get to go on adventures, be a part of something bigger. It'll be amazing." Kobe's heart raced at the prospect. The idea of freedom and adventure beyond his limited life on Alvida's ship was exhilarating. "Really? You'd want me?" he asked, his voice filled with hope. "Of course. We need someone to help with errands and the sales, and there's always room for heart in our crew." Hancock replied with a warm smile. Kobe blinked back a few tears of joy and laughter. "Thank you. I'd love that." He paused for a moment before adding, "I'm ready to be more than just a cabin boy." As the dust settled around them, Luffy turned his attention back to Alvida, who was still reeling from the effects of his conqueror's haki. Despite being weakened, she was fuming with indignation. "Now, what are you going to do with me?" she spat, her voice dripping with resentment. "Are you going to kill me or turn me over to the Marines?" Luffy, however, paused for a moment, considering her words. "You seem to have potential, despite being weak right now," he observed, a hint of curiosity in his voice. Just then, Hancock chimed in, her confidence unwavering. "No, I think you should join our crew as well. Like my boyfriend said, you do have potential, and your experience as a sailor could be useful to us." Alvida, realizing the precarious position she was in, weighed her options. Better to ally with them than end up dead or imprisoned. "Fine, I accept," she said begrudgingly, though the remnants of her pride stung. "Welcome aboard, I guess." "Great. But you need to do two things first," Luffy said, his excitement bubbling over. Alvida raised an eyebrow, intrigued despite herself. "What?" "First, you have to apologize to Kobe," Luffy stated, staring at her seriously. "Apologize? To him?" Alvida sneered. "Yes," Hancock said, crossing her arms. "You've mistreated him for far too long. He deserves at least that." With a huff, Alvida turned to Kobe, who was still recovering from the shock of the day. "All right, fine. I'm sorry, Kobe. I treated you poorly, and that was wrong. I won't do it again, if you don't cross me," she added, trying to maintain a semblance of her former authority. Kobe looked taken aback for a moment before nodding slowly. That's okay, I guesproved. And the second thing is," he leaned back dramatically, some the ground beneath him to shadowy depths. Tendrils of black shadow swirled around his arm, and he reached into a dark hole he created with his powers, pulling out a devil fruit. Luffy looked at Alvida and Kobe, both wide-eyed in shock. "Don't worry, I'll explain later," he reassured them, extending the fruit toward Alvida. "You need to eat this." "What is that?" Alvida asked, glancing nervously at the fruit, unsure of what to expect. "It's a devil fruit. You'll gain powers from it," Luffy explained, his enthusiasm shining through. "Trust me, it'll make you stronger, and you'll be able to contribute more to the crew." Alvida hesitated, uncertainty written across her face. After a moment of deliberation and realizing there were no other options, she took the fruit from Luffy's hand. "Fine," she muttered, quickly biting into it. As Alvida bit into the devil fruit and swallowed the horrid taste, her stomach churned, and she fought the urge to gag. The flavor was revolting, but she managed to hold it down, determined to embrace whatever powers it might bestow upon her. Suddenly, she felt an overwhelming surge of energy coursing through her, electrifying every fiber of her being. To her astonishment, she watched as her body began to change. The excess weight that had once defined her slowly started to shift. Her form grew slimmer, as if the fat was sliding off her in waves that she couldn't quite comprehend. "What's happening?" she exclaimed, panic creeping into her voice as she glanced at her hands, which were now thin and delicate. Rushing to a nearby barrel, she caught her reflection. A striking beauty stared back at her, one she had never thought possible. "Wow, I didn't expect this," she murmured, eyes wide with disbelief. Hancock smiled, crossing her arms with a satisfied look. "Welcome to your new self, Alvida. You've just eaten the smooth fruit. It's probably the best possible outcome for you." Smooth fruit. Alvida echoed, still adjusting to her new appearance. The transformation felt surreal. "Luffy can demonstrate what this means for you," Hancock continued, a hint of mischief dancing in her eyes. "All right, let's see what you've got," Luffy said enthusiastically. He picked up some debris lying around the ship, twigs and small bits of wood, and threw them toward Alvida without hesitation. To her surprise, the debris just slipped off her skin, falling harmlessly to the ground. She stared in astonishment, her reflection in the barrel showcasing not only her newfound looks but also the light grace she now possessed. "I can't believe it. Thank you so much," she exclaimed, a gleeful spark igniting within her. "I swear loyalty to you both from this day on." "Now we're talking," Luffy cheered, excitement bubbling over. "You're officially part of the crew now, and together we'll do amazing things." As the trio stood on the deck, ready to unite their destinies, Luffy beamed as he introduced himself. "My name is Monkey D. Luffy, and this is my girlfriend, Boa Hancock." Hearing the names, both Alvida and Kobe paled, wide-eyed in recognition. Kobe's voice trembled in disbelief. Luffy. And Hancock. As in the Dragon of Darkness with a bounty of 600 million belly. And the Snake Princess, Hancock, with a bounty of 550 million belly. "Yes, that's us." Luffy laughed, his confidence reigning strong. "But we're starting our own crew now." Hancock nodded, smiling proudly at Luffy. "Congratulations, you two. You're our first members," she declared. Luffy's enthusiasm radiated as he added, "That's right. But before I forget, Hancock, where is Salome?" "Oh, I sent her down the ship," Hancock replied casually. "I used my observation haki and detected something moving down there." Just as she finished her explanation, Salome emerged from the back of the ship, but she wasn't alone. The Queen Anaconda had captured a young woman around Luffy's and Hancock's age, her orange hair contrasting sharply with Salome's white scales. "Let me go, you stupid snake," the girl exclaimed, struggling against Salome's coils, her indignation palpable. "Whoa, hold on," Luffy exclaimed, eyes wide with curiosity. "Who are you?" The girl shot him an annoyed glare, clearly irate at her situation. "I'm someone you don't want to mess with," she huffed, daring to glance at the faces of her captors. Hancock stepped forward, intrigued. "What's your name?" "Nami," she replied, still shaking her head in disbelief. "And I don't need a snake to capture me." "Oh, stop being so dramatic. Out of everyone here, you're the one taken hostage, after all," Hancock quipped, the amusement dancing in her eyes. As Nami remained coiled tightly within Salome's graceful embrace, her panic grew. "Please, let me go. I'm just a poor girl," she pleaded, her eyes darting between Luffy and the massive anaconda. "Really? Then what were you doing in the ship's cellar?" Luffy asked, tilting his head curiously. He had a mischievous grin on his face, but there was a seriousness underlying his inquiry. "I guess the treasure or rum would be something you might enjoy, huh?" Nami felt her heart race at Luffy's mention of the treasure. "I swear, I wasn't looking for trouble. I thought it was an abandoned ship, and I—" "Save it," Luffy interrupted playfully, his tone light yet commanding. "You can tell us what you were doing, or I'll throw you to the sharks." Nami's face drained of color. "Wait, what? You wouldn't really, would you?" She panicked, realizing that her words weren't having the desired effect on the intimidating duo. Before she could continue, Hancock interjected, her demeanor calm yet fierce. "Salome, I think it's time for a little discipline. Knock her out." With a swift movement, Salome lunged forward, headbutting Nami with surprising speed. The impact was swift and decisive, and Nami felt herself spiraling into unconsciousness as darkness enveloped her. With Nami unconscious and safely nestled in Salome's coils, Luffy turned to Alvida, a plan forming in his mind. "Hey, do you have holding cells on board?" he asked, his tone pragmatic. Alvida, still reeling from the unexpected turn of events, nodded. "Yes, I do. But what are you going to do with her?" Luffy glanced at Kobe. "Kobe, your first duty is to throw her in a cell until she calms down. We can't have her running amok after everything." Kobe nodded, taking a deep breath. "Okay, I can do that," he said, moving to pick Nami up. He carefully adjusted her so she was secure in his arms. As Kobe prepared to carry Nami, Hancock noticed something unusual. "Wait, Kobe," she called out, her instincts kicking in. She moved to Nami and gently lifted up the unconscious girl's sleeve, revealing a tattoo etched onto her arm. "Look at this," Hancock said, her voice growing serious. Luffy leaned closer, examining the marking. To his surprise, Alvida's expression shifted to one of recognition. "I know that symbol. It's the mark of Arlong the shark," she exclaimed, fear and confusion swirling in her voice. "But why is she with him? I thought he hated humans." Luffy crossed his arms, deep in thought. "Arlong. I guess we'll have to ask her when she wakes up. But for now, Kobe, let's put her in the cell." With Nami securely locked away, Luffy turned his attention back to Alvida and Kobe, his mind racing with the steps they needed to take next. "Okay, now that's taken care of," he began, a sense of determination shining in his eyes. "First things first, Alvida, you need some clothes." He pointed to her current outfit, which was now clearly too big for her new, sleeker form after her transformation. Hancock stepped in. "You can borrow some of mine until we reach the next island." "Good thinking," Luffy agreed, glancing at Alvida with a supportive nod. "The second part of our plan is that we'll be taking your ship, and do you know someone who can repaint it and make some upgrades?" Luffy asked, his voice full of purpose. Alvida, regaining her composure, replied, "Yes, I do. I know a guy in Shell's town. He doesn't care who he works for, as long as they're paying." "Perfect. We'll be heading there," Luffy said, excitement palpable in his tone. "And the third part is that you two will be starting hockey training as soon as we get the ship repainted and upgraded." "Hockey? What's that?" Alvida asked, her curiosity piqued. "You'll see," Luffy said mysteriously, a grin spreading across his face. "Oh, and as for your men," Luffy continued, "I don't need them. I prefer quality over quantity." "Fine, they're all idiots anyway," Alvida admitted with a wave of her hand, brushing off any lingering concern for her former crew. "They weren't worth my time." As the ship glided smoothly over the waves toward Shell's town, the atmosphere buzzed with conversation. Kobe, who had been quietly observing the dynamics on board, found himself drawn into a conversation with Alvida. "Kobe, can I ask you something?" Alvida began, curiosity mingling with the remnants of her previous attitude. "How come you decided to join this crew? I thought you always cried about wanting to be a Marine." Kobe shifted uncomfortably, his past aspirations weighing on him. "Well, yes, but that incident we had 6 months ago changed my perspective," he admitted, glancing away for a moment. "I know there are good Marines out there, but the fact that they suggested something like that to you, it made me sick." Luffy and Hancock exchanged curious glances, intrigued by what Kobe was alluding to. "What are you talking about?" Luffy asked, leaning closer. Alvida decided to elaborate. 6 months ago, some Marines approached me with an offer," she started, her tone dripping with disdain. "They suggested I assist them in transporting human cargo, slaves. Despite being a pirate, a thief, and a murderer, I wanted nothing to do with that." Kobe nodded forcefully, his expression serious. "When I heard that, I realized that not all pirates are the same, but those Marines really showed me another side of the world I didn't understand. I may have wanted to be a Marine, but I can't support that kind of evil." "What happened next?" Hancock probed, her interest piqued, realizing the implications behind Alvida's story. "I crushed their skulls with my mace," Alvida stated bluntly and unapologetically. The confidence in her voice left no room for doubt. She had stood her ground, unwilling to support the abhorrent actions that needed to be stopped. The revelation hung in the air, a feeling of gravity settling over the group. A slave operation in the East Blue. The trio shared knowing looks. Alvida's disdain for the Marines made more sense. She had witnessed the dark underbelly of their world. Luffy's expression morphed into determination. We can't let that happen. If they're dealing in human cargo, we have to shut it down, he declared, his gaze resolute. Absolutely, Hancock agreed, her own resolve solidifying. We can't stand by while the innocent suffer. It's our duty as pirates and as people who want to protect others. 2 hours had passed since the crew left the docks, and Alvida had taken on the role of helmsman, guiding the ship with a mix of confidence and newfound purpose. Meanwhile, the sun hung high in the sky, casting warmth over Luffy and Hancock as they basked in its glow. Luffy, shirtless and wearing colorful swim trunks, was sprawled out on the deck, soaking up the sun's rays. Hancock, equally relaxed, wore a stunning bikini that emphasized her graceful figure. Every moment spent in the sun was not just a respite from the journey ahead but a celebration of their newfound freedom. Just then, Kobe emerged from the ship's holding cell, a frustrated expression on his face as he cradled his nose, which was bleeding. Damn it, that witch. Kobe muttered under his breath, clearly venting his frustration. Luffy glanced over, concern etched across his features. Kobe, what happened? He asked, noticing Kobe's distressed demeanor. When Kobe met Luffy's gaze, his cheeks flushed bright red at the sight of Hancock. Ma'am, could you put some clothes on, please? He stammered, his embarrassment palpable as he averted his eyes from Hancock. Hancock couldn't help but smirk at Kobe's reaction, but her amusement quickly turned to curiosity. What happened to your nose? With a deep sigh, Kobe recounted, it was that witch. He paused, recalling the encounter with Nami during his time in the holding cell. Flashback. Inside the cell, Nami had regained consciousness, her mind whirling with thoughts of escape. Determined and frustrated, she had tried to pick the lock on her cell. Come on, just a little bit more, she muttered to herself, her determination burning bright. Suddenly, the door swung open. Prize. Shit, she thought, scrambling to stop what she was doing as Kobe entered the room with her food. Here you go, ma'am. I brought you some food, Kobe said awkwardly, attempting to keep his composure. Nami, however, had other ideas. You're sweet, but can you help me escape? I'll give you a kiss if you help, she coaxed seductively, her tone shifting dramatically. Kobe's face blushed with shock, but he managed to muster a response. Sorry, ma'am, but I can't betray my captain. Nami's expression hardened, and she leaned closer to the bars, trying to charm him. But in a sudden movement, she reached out, grabbing Kobe by the shirt and slamming his head against the bars. Not helping a damsel in distress, she challenged, frustration laced with playfulness. Flashback ends. Kobe rubbed his sore head, his embarrassment rendered all the more acute as he relayed the story to Luffy and Hancock. I can't believe I let her get to me like that. She's so manipulative. Luffy couldn't help but laugh, holding his stomach as he imagined the encounter. That's hilarious, Kobe. You've got to stand your ground. Hancock, still amused, added, well, it seems you've learned that not all damsels are as innocent as they appear. Kobe sighed, wishing the ground would swallow him whole. Yeah, I'll remember that. As Luffy and Hancock continued to laugh at Kobe's earlier misadventures, they felt a shift in the air. The excitement of their journey was tempered by the reality of their mission. It was time to face the challenges that lay ahead. Hancock decided it was time to retrieve Nami from her cell. Kobe, can you call Alvida to the deck? Luffy said, his voice steady as he prepared for what was to come. Kobe nodded and set off to fetch Alvida while Hancock made her way toward the holding area. As she approached the cell, Nami looked up expectantly, still reeling from the events earlier. Let me go, please, Nami pleaded, her voice filled with desperation as she realized she was still trapped. Once Hancock brought Nami into the light, Luffy decided it was time for some honesty. Nami, why do you have Arlong's mark on your arm? He asked, his tone serious. Nami's expression shifted from desperation to confusion, then sadness as she realized she had no choice but to reveal her truth. Tears welled in her eyes as she began to recount her tragic story, each word heavier than the last. Arlong took everything from me, he put that mark on me, and I had to endure so much pain. I've suffered under his tyranny ever since. Hancock stepped forward and wrapped her arms around Nami, comforting her through the emotional turmoil. "You don't have to face this pain alone anymore," she whispered gently. "You're free now. We'll protect you." As Nami shared her story, Luffy's heart broke for her. He felt an overwhelming urge to help her reclaim her life, something he was committed to doing. A flicker of an idea ignited within him. "What if I could free your village from Arlong?" he proposed, a determined fire lighting his eyes. "If we take him down, you can live freely again." Nami was taken aback, her skepticism bubbling to the surface. "Free my village? Are you claiming you can defeat Arlong? He's a monster, Luffy. He's terrifying." Luffy and Hancock exchanged a knowing glance, both smiling at Nami's remark. "You think he's a monster?" Luffy asked, his tone playful yet sincere. "Let me show you what a true monster looks like." In a swift motion, Hancock transformed, her hair morphing into snakes, her legs merging into a majestic serpentine tail. She surged to an imposing height of 3.5 meters, transformed into a fearsome gorgon. Her presence was commanding, a testament to her heritage and strength. Before Nami could gather her thoughts, Luffy followed suit. He sprouted magnificent wings from his back, scales covering his body in a dramatic display of power. Horns erupted from his forehead as he transitioned into his dragon form, towering over 7 meters tall. Alvida, Kobe, and Nami watched in shock, eyes wide as they witnessed the incredible transformation. Luffy, in his dragon form, looked down at Nami with a fierce intensity. "This is what a true monster looks like," he affirmed, letting his voice rumble through the air. Nami's heart raced, her breath caught in her throat. The sheer scale of them both was overwhelming, but as fear mingled with awe, she could feel a new realization dawning within her. As the transformation settled, Hancock, in her gorgon form, looked at Luffy and couldn't help but say, "Looks like we broke her." Luffy chuckled, glancing at Nami. "Don't worry, we may be monsters to some, but we're not here to hurt you. We're here to help." Luffy watched Nami's stunned expression with great amusement. "It wouldn't be right for us to kill Arlong," he said with a hint of mischief in his tone. "I think it would be poetic justice if you were the one to finish him off, Nami." "Me?" Nami exclaimed, shock evident in her voice. "You want me to kill him?" Luffy nodded enthusiastically, a wide grin on his face. "Yeah, you've got every right to. You've suffered at his hands, and nothing would be more satisfying than reclaiming your power and your home." As the weight of Luffy's suggestion settled in, Nami felt something shift within her, a blend of determination and purpose igniting in her chest. I can do that," she murmured, the possibility becoming clearer. "Now, let's prepare for this rite," Luffy said, his tone brightening once again. He transformed back into his human form and summoned the black hole he used to store their treasures and devil fruits. With focused determination, he produced 2 devil fruits from its depths, one for Nami and one for Kobe. "Here, take these," Luffy said, handing the fruits over. Both Nami and Kobe exchanged incredulous glances, stunned by the unexpected gift. "You really mean it?" Kobe asked, eyeing the fruit with both excitement and apprehension. "Yeah, trust me on this, you'll thank me later," Luffy encouraged, his voice brimming with confidence. With a shared sense of trust and determination, Nami and Kobe took a deep breath and bit into the fruits simultaneously. As they chewed, their faces contorted, both yielding in unison, "This is disgusting." Luffy laughed, but Hancock and Alvida joined in, chanting, "We now just." Suddenly, Nami began to transform. Black fur sprouted across her body as she shifted and morphed into a sleek, powerful Black Panther. She stood majestic and fierce, a symbol of strength and agility. Luffy clapped in excitement. "Congratulations, Nami. You just ate the panther fruit. You can turn into a Black Panther now." Nami, now fully realizing the extent of her new abilities, bowed her head and purred softly, a sound that echoed her newfound strength. "This is incredible," she exclaimed, the thrill of her transformation flooding her with newfound energy. Next, Luffy turned to Kobe, who looked on in awe. "And for you, Kobe, you just ate the," he began but was cut off. Before he could continue, Hancock placed her hand over Luffy's mouth with a playful smirk, recognizing where he was headed. "The gum fruit," she finished for him. "You are now a rubber man." Kobe's eyes widened in disbelief. Gum fruit, really?" Luffy nodded enthusiastically, excitement flooding his veins. "You'll be able to stretch." As they reveled in their newfound powers, Hancock reminded Luffy of a crucial detail. Remember what Shanks said, if we find anyone to give that fruit to, make sure we don't tell them its real name. That information is powerful, and it can be used against us. Luffy's eyes sparkled with understanding as he nodded. Got it. We'll keep it a secret. With Nami now a Black Panther and Kobe able to stretch his body like rubber, they felt emboldened, ready to embark on their new journey with vigor. The excitement of what lay ahead was only heightened by their transformations. As the ship sailed closer to Shell's town, Luffy, Hancock, and their newfound friends were buzzing with excitement. The sight of the bustling port town emerged on the horizon, and the thrill of adventure coursed through their veins. But before they fully reached their destination, Nami, Kobe, and Alvida took the opportunity to test their new abilities. Alright, let's see what you've got. Luffy encouraged, standing back as the three prepared to showcase their powers. Nami focused her energy and shifted into her panther form, the sleek black fur shimmering under the sunlight as she prowled around. With newfound agility, she stretched out her claws, playfully scratching the ground and testing the strength of her new body. Wow, this is amazing! She exclaimed, her feline instincts surfacing. But as she began to prance, an unexpected realization struck her. Wait, what's happening? Why do I suddenly have an appetite for raw fish? Kobe, still getting used to his rubbery body, stretched his arms, trying to acclimate to the changes. He discovered with surprise that his stomach felt different. Hang on, my stomach feels like a bottomless pit. He said incredulously, patting his midsection. I can't believe it, I'm made of rubber. Alvida, that once proud pirate lady, was now coming to terms with her slippery skin. She struggled to grip her mace effectively. What the hell? My skin is so slippery. She cursed as the weapon slipped through her fingers repeatedly. How can I wield this if it just keeps sliding away from me? With a laugh, Hancock approached, trying to calm Alvida's apparent frustration. You'll get used to your new body eventually, she advised, a playful twinkle in her eye. Just practice a little more. Practice. I can barely hold onto anything. Alvida shot back, pouting. They continued to experiment, adjusting to their unusual capabilities as they sailed toward Shell's town. It took some time for each of them to realize the new challenges that came with their respective powers, or rather, the peculiarities. Nami, watching her claws with fascination, shared her concern. I wonder if I'll start acting more like a cat. Is there a reason I want to scratch everything and chase after fish now? I guess it's part of your transformation. Perhaps it's your panther instincts coming out, Hancock suggested with a smile. Just embrace it. As they sailed closer to Shell's town, Alvida led Luffy, Nami, and Kobe to a discreet back entrance to the city, avoiding unnecessary attention. The bustling sounds of the marketplace greeted them as they stepped onto solid ground, and Alvida gestured to a modest workshop nearby. This is my friend's place, Alvida explained, pointing toward a sign that read, Riggins Repair Shop. He can repaint the ship and make all the upgrades you need. Luffy entered, his excitement bubbling over as he approached the burly man who was busy working on a small fishing boat. Hey, we need to upgrade our ship. I want it to be faster and look cooler. Riggins looked up from his work, sizing up the young pirate as they discussed the necessary upgrades. After Luffy laid out his vision and requirements, Riggins squinted, considering the task. I can do that for you, he finally said, stroking his beard. But it'll cost you 50 million belly. Luffy agreed without hesitation, then added, and I'll give you an extra 20 million belly if you can get it done in 2 days. Deal. Riggins replied, a grin spreading across his face, recognizing the challenge ahead. With the arrangements made, Alvida and Hancock headed off shopping in the busy marketplace, leaving Luffy, Nami, and Kobe to explore the marine base. They felt a mix of anticipation and nervousness about what they would find. Okay, so what do you know about this base? Who's in charge? Luffy inquired, looking excited as they approached the imposing building. Nami took a breath, recalling everything she'd heard. Not much, just that the commander is someone named Axe-Hand Morgan. He's known to be a brute. She paused, eyeing the base. He recently captured a bounty hunter named Roronoa Zoro. Zoro. Luffy interrupted, a glint of interest sparking in his eyes. I've heard that name before. He's supposed to be the most infamous bounty hunter in East Blue, and they say he uses 3 swords. Nami nodded, recalling the rumors. Exactly. The man's skills are legendary. In an instant, Luffy's enthusiasm peaked. With a burst of adrenaline, he sprouted his wings and grabbed both Nami and Kobe. "Hang on," he shouted, and before Nami could brace herself, Luffy launched into the air, soaring over the base's walls. As they landed in the courtyard, Nami scolded him, her voice rising in frustration. "Luffy, don't do that again without warning me first." But her protests fell on deaf ears as they noticed something, an imposing figure tied up in the center of the courtyard. It was none other than Roronoa Zoro himself. His arms were bound, and he appeared to be unconscious, the green bandana around his head slightly askew. "Hey, is that Zoro?" Kobe asked, pointing toward the figure with wide eyes. As Luffy, Nami, and Kobe approached the bound figure in the courtyard, Luffy was the first to break the tense silence. "Hey there, are you Zoro?" he called out, his voice filled with enthusiasm. Zoro looked up, his sharp eyes narrowing as he took in the trio before him. The first was a muscular young man around his age, clad in a black sleeveless shirt and black combat pants, exuding confidence. To his right stood a girl with striking orange hair, dressed in heels and a mini skirt that accentuated her features, her stance poised. On the left was a dorky-looking boy with pink hair and glasses, a noticeable contrast to the other two. "What the hell do you want?" Zoro grumbled, clearly wary of their intentions. "I'm recruiting members for my pirate crew." "Interested?" Luffy asked, his excitement palpable. "Forget it. I'm not interested," Zoro replied defiantly, his pride unyielding. "I have my own goals." "Oh, and what are those?" Luffy probed, intrigued. "My goal is to be the best swordsman in the world," Zoro said, determination echoing in his voice. Luffy's eyes widened in impressed excitement. "That's impressive, but when I look at you, I can tell you've got massive potential. As you are now, though, you'll never defeat Dracula Mihawk. He would kill you in a second." Zoro's expression hardened at the mention of Mihawk, and he narrowed his eyes. "How do you know that name?" Luffy grinned broadly, gesturing to his muscular frame. "Well, as you can see, I'm a swordsman myself. I've met Mihawk a couple of times and was trained by his rival and drinking buddy, red-haired Shanks." Zoro's skepticism shifted into curiosity, intrigue weaving its way into the fabric of his demeanor. "You know Shanks?" "Yep, he's my uncle." Luffy chuckled, reveling in the reactions that followed his words. Kobe was wide-eyed, glancing between Luffy and Zoro. "You're related to red-haired Shanks, the Yonko?" "Yup, and he can vouch for my skills," Luffy declared, confidence radiating from him. "I believe in you, Zoro. If we join forces, we can help you fulfill your dream. You'll be a legendary swordsman in no time, but first, you need to break free from this situation." "But why would I want to join a pirate crew? What would you offer me?" Zoro questioned, still sizing Luffy up, weighing his options. "Adventure, freedom, and the chance to grow stronger alongside us," Luffy offered, beaming with enthusiasm. "Together, we'll carve our own paths and face whatever the world throws our way." Having agreed to join Luffy and Hancock's crew, Zoro contemplated his options, realizing he would need to remain in Shell's town for another 5 days. "I'll give you an answer after that," he declared, a hint of resolve in his voice. "Let me wrap up some things first." Meanwhile, back in town at the local bar, Alvida and Hancock were enjoying a moment of relaxation. Alvida sipped on a glass of wine, observing the vibrancy around them, while Hancock indulged in a delecte cake, savoring every bite. "You sure like your sweets, Hancock," Alvida teased, a smirk playing on her lips. Hancock, caught mid-bite, nodded enthusiastically. "Yes, I do. Fortunately, thanks to my devil fruit, I can eat all I want without gaining weight. Transforming requires a lot of energy." Alvida raised her glass, appreciating her friend's spirited attitude. "Well, I'm glad you've found something that suits you." Just then, the bar door swung open, and in walked Luffy, Nami, and Kobe, buzzing with excitement after their discussions with Zoro. They made their way to the table where Alvida and Hancock were seated, Luffy already animatedly recounting their plans. "Well, we found Zoro, and he's going to join us," he announced, plopping down onto a nearby chair. "Great, that's awesome," Hancock replied, a smile lighting up her face. "But why does he have to stay here for 5 more days?" Luffy leaned forward, a sparkle in his eyes as he explained. He said something about needing to sort a few things out first. Plus, he has to deal with Captain Morgan's son, Helmeppo. Helmeppo. What does he have to do with Zoro? Alvida asked, intrigued. Just as the group was strategizing their next move regarding Zoro's situation, a small girl approached them with wide, innocent eyes. She was the owner's daughter, a girl named Rika, and she looked both relieved and excited to see them. Excuse me. Rika piped up, her voice shaky yet determined. Zoro saved my mother and me from a wolf that belonged to Helmeppo. When Zoro killed the wolf, Helmeppo got furious. He threatened to put mother and me in prison unless Zoro agreed to a deal. He said if Zoro stayed tied up with no food for a month, he would forget everything. Rika's words tumbled out rapidly, the urgency clear. However, just then, the door to the bar swung open, and in sauntered Helmeppo, Captain Morgan's son, exuding an obnoxious air of arrogance. He demanded a bottle of their best wine, his eyes scanning the room with contempt. This is what happens when you have weaklings around, they can't even protect themselves. He boasted loudly. As he bragged, Luffy's attention zeroed in on Helmeppo, his blood boiling at the mention of Zoro's impending execution. The words struck like a match in dry grass. Without hesitation, Luffy charged toward Helmeppo and gripped him by the neck, lifting him off the ground with surprising ease. Repeat that, he commanded, his voice low and menacing. Helmeppo's bravado wavered as he gasped for breath, shock and fear flooding his eyes. I have no intention of releasing him. I'm going to have him shot tomorrow. He squeaked, each word lacking the confidence it once held. Luffy's anger surged, and he tightened his grip on Helmeppo's neck. The two Marines accompanying Helmeppo, who had been ready to back him up, now looked terrified, realizing the identity of the formidable pirate standing before them. Why your monkey D. Luffy? One of the Marines stammered, fear evident in his voice. Luffy wasn't interested in their fear, he wanted justice. Channeling his strength, he threw Helmeppo against the wall of the bar with tremendous force. The impact created a sizable hole, and Helmeppo was left embedded in the rubble, stunned and gasping. Luffy stalked over and pulled Helmeppo back from the debris by his hair, ignoring the whimper of pain that escaped his mouth as he dragged him roughly out into the courtyard. Let go of me, Helmeppo screamed, panic gripping him as he struggled futilely against Luffy's hold. You can't do this. My father will. Your father will what? Luffy interrupted, his voice cutting through Helmeppo's bravado. He will be too busy seeing the consequences of your actions. Nobody threatens our friends and gets away with it. With every step, Luffy's resolve solidified. He dragged Helmeppo toward the Marine base, fervent with the intent of confronting Captain Morgan and putting an end to this madness once and for all. Luffy dragged Helmeppo by his hair, the shrill screams escaping the young pirate ringing in his ears like a relentless buzz. Ah, let me go, Helmeppo screeched, panic coursing through him as he struggled uselessly against Luffy's grip. Shut up. The only thing more annoying than you is that tacky suit you're wearing. Luffy retorted, his irritation mixing with determination as he marched toward the Marine base. As they neared the entrance, several guards spotted the commotion and rushed to intervene, attempting to stop Luffy. But with a fierce blast of his conqueror's haki, Luffy knocked them unconscious with ease. The aura of power enveloped the area, causing those who felt it to tremble in fear, solidifying Luffy's dominance over them. With the guards incapacitated, Luffy marched into the courtyard, tossing Helmeppo to the ground with a hearty yank that ripped out a handful of the boy's hair in the process. He landed beside Zoro, who was still tied up, his expression shifting from lethargy to surprise as he witnessed the commotion. Luffy, Zoro said, quirking an eyebrow at the sight of Helmeppo struggling to right himself. What the hell is going on? Luffy pulled out one of his swords, the gleaming blade poised dangerously near Helmeppo's neck. You're going to tell Zoro your true intentions, he demanded, his voice low and threatening. Just then, in the thick smoke of the room, Captain Morgan, the commander of the Marines, sat casually in his office, enjoying a cigar and sipping on brandy while admiring a portrait of himself that hung on the wall. He reveled in his self-importance, pausing now and then to admire his own reflection in a lengthy monologue about how great he was. Suddenly, a frantic Marine burst into the room, breathless and wide-eyed. Captain Morgan, you won't believe what's happening outside. Morgan waved a hand dismissively, clearly uninterested. You'd better have a good reason to be interrupting my leisure time, soldier. It's your son, Helmeppo. He's being dragged in by that pirate, Luffy. He's attacking the base." The Marine blurted out, panic trickling into his tone. Morgan's expression shifted, a scowl creeping across his face. He didn't particularly care for Helmeppo, but the fact that his son was making waves in such a public manner was a direct insult to his authority. "What?" he roared, leaping to his feet, the cigar dropping from his mouth. "This is a disgrace. Bring me the rest of my men." As Luffy held Helmeppo firmly in place with the blade at his throat, Zoro listened intently, the anger simmering within him ready to boil over. Helmeppo continued to spew insults, his bravado waning in the face of the overwhelming strength of Luffy and Zoro. "You little shit," Zoro growled, his patience thin. "When I get untied, you'll wish that your daddy flushed you down the toilet at birth." Hearing this, Luffy couldn't help but laugh, the sound booming across the courtyard. In one swift motion, he sliced through Zoro's ropes with his sword, freeing him. Despite not having eaten for more than a month and still being weak, Zoro quickly regained his composure and stood tall, the fire returning to his eyes. "Where are my swords, you little shit?" he demanded, grabbing Helmeppo by the throat, his grip firm and unwavering. Helmeppo's bravado crumbled entirely under Zoro's furious stare. My room," he stuttered, panic etched into every word. Luffy, quick to act, turned to Kobe. "Kobe, go retrieve Zoro's swords. And take Salome with you, just in case." He glanced at Salome and then back to Kobe. "And if this spoiled little brat tries anything, let Salome eat him." Kobe nodded, determination setting in. On it, the atmosphere in the courtyard shifted dramatically as Captain Morgan appeared, his imposing figure dwarfed most around him. Tall and menacing, he towered over them with a metal jaw and a giant axe for a hand. "So, you are Monkey D. Luffy and Boa Hancock," he announced, his voice booming with self-importance. Luffy met his gaze with casual irreverence. "Yeah, that's me. And you must be that idiot Morgan." Morgan's face contorted with rage, sputtering indignantly. "How dare you? I am the great Captain Morgan. Do you have any idea who you're talking to?" He took a threatening step forward, anger bubbling beneath his surface. Hancock could barely contain her amusement at Morgan's pompous demeanor. "Great Captain Morgan, the only thing great about you is the amount of air in that fat head of yours," she quipped, a smirk playing on her lips. "Why you, how dare you, you?" Morgan seethed, veins bulging from his face. "I could care less," Hancock interrupted, her voice calm yet unwavering as she stepped forward. "You think you can throw around threats and scare people without consequences?" Morgan's rage erupted. "I am the captain of this base, and you will answer for your insolence. When I'm done with you, I will show the world my greatness." However, before he could finish, Hancock, with precision and grace, knocked an arrow from her bow infused with armament hockey. With a quick pull and a natural aim, she launched the arrow toward Morgan. He tried to block it with his axe, but the arrow pierced through his defenses effortlessly, driving straight into his chest, the hockey amplifying its strength. The deadly projectile exited out the other side, and a look of shock crossed Morgan's face as he staggered, finally collapsing to the ground in a crumpled heap. "Captain Morgan is dead," Hancock said simply, the weight of her powers echoing in the silence that followed. As Captain Morgan's lifeless body lay sprawled on the ground, the tension around Luffy and his crew shifted dramatically. With a mischievous grin, he turned to the remaining Marines and said, "So, do you want to fight?" To the surprise of Luffy and his crew, the soldiers erupted into cheers. "Yes, that bastard Morgan is dead," they shouted, their fear turning into a release of pent-up frustration. Kobe returned shortly after, struggling under the weight of 3 katanas strapped across his back. He looked bewildered as he approached Luffy. "What happened? Why are the soldiers cheering?" Luffy waved him off casually, a laugh escaping him as he replied, "I'll explain later." But first, he turned and handed Zoro his swords, placing the katanas back into his capable hands. "Here you go, Zoro. Let's get you back on your feet." Zoro nodded, a look of gratitude in his eyes as he took hold of the swords, feeling the familiar weight return to him. "Thanks, Luffy." As the scene transitioned to the bar, the atmosphere brightened. Luffy, Hancock, Alvida, Zoro, Nami, Kobe, and Salome were all gathered around a bountiful feast, delighting in their newfound freedom and victory. The laughter and camaraderie felt like a celebration of not only their successes but also the bonds they had formed. However, the merriment didn't last long. Suddenly, the doors swung open, and a Marine stepped inside, a commanding presence surrounding him. "I am Commander Ripper," he announced, looking at the gathered group. "And I wish to thank you for getting rid of Morgan. He was a real pain in the ass." Luffy smiled brightly at the unexpected gratitude. "No problem. It was our pleasure." Luffy turned to Commander Ripper, a light of determination in his eyes. "Can we stay for 2 days until the ship is ready?" "Absolutely," Ripper agreed, appreciating their need for time to prepare. "You've earned it after taking down Morgan." Then, in a moment of spontaneity, Luffy added, "Can I also get a Den Den Mushi, one that's connected to Marine HQ?" Ripper looked confused but nodded, "Sure. I can arrange that. But why do you want to contact them?" The moment Luffy asked for the Den Den Mushi, a chain of unexpected events began to unfold back at Marine headquarters. There, Vice Admiral Monkey D. Garp was deep in a battle of wits with his greatest enemy, boredom. Suddenly, his Den Den Mushi started ringing, cutting through the monotony. With a heavy sigh, Garp picked it up. "Vice Admiral Garp here." On the other end, a familiar, mischievous voice rang out. "Hey, you old fart, are you sleeping again on the job?" Garp's eyes flew wide open in surprise, and anger coursed through him as he demanded, "Who is on the other line?" To his astonishment, a gleeful laugh echoed back. "It's me, Luffy." "Luffy, what are you doing on this line?" Garp asked, both shocked and slightly amused. The corners of his lips lifted a little, the grandfatherly affection creeping back in. "Just calling to see how you're doing, Gramps. I missed you," Luffy said brightly, innocence and joy radiating from him. Garp grumbled, recalling the last time he had heard from Luffy, the trouble he had found himself in. "So my grandson misses me, does he? But Luffy, where are you? And is Hancock with you, or has she come to her senses and left you?" Luffy chuckled, pleased with Garp's reaction. "Nope, she's still here, and she's my vice captain now," he announced with pride in his voice. "I'm in the East Blue, and I've started my journey." Garp sighed, a mixture of exasperation and pride swelling his chest. "You're in the East Blue. What trouble are you getting into now?" With the Den Den Mushi still connected, Luffy leaned in closer, his excitement bubbling over as he continued to share details with his grandfather, Garp. "Oh, and Garp, I have to tell you about Captain Morgan too. We took him down, and now the Marine base is in shambles." Luffy exclaimed, reliving the thrill of their confrontation. "What? You took down Morgan? That fool never learned," Garp muttered, a mix of admiration and exasperation in his tone. "I just wanted to let you know that I'd like you to come to the East Blue. I got a tip about something you should see for yourself," Luffy suggested, his tone taking on a more serious edge as he sensed the gravity of the message. "I see," Garp replied, shifting gears. "All right, I'll be there in 10 days. Before they ended their call, a thought suddenly crossed Luffy's mind, and he glanced at Nami, who still looked shocked standing beside him. "Nami, by any chance, does Arlong have a tattoo of a sun on him?" he asked, trying to piece together their next steps. Nami quickly nodded, her brows knitting together in confusion. "Yes, he does." Luffy's resolve deepened as he turned back to Garp. "Garp, you should also contact the warlord Jinbei," he said. "Jinbei, the former captain of the Sun Pirates." Garp replied, a hint of a frown creasing his forehead. "Why would I contact him?" Luffring how best to phrase his answer. "I'll explain more in the East Blue. Just trust me, this is important," Luffy insisted, the importance of the situation dawning on him. "All right, I'll reach out to Jinbei and find out what's going on," Garp said, his voice steady. "Just keep your head on straight, Luffy. I'll see you soon." With that, they ended the call. The room fell into a stunned silence as Luffy finished his call with Garp, the weight of the information settling in. Zoro was the first to break the silence. "Wait a minute, Garp. As in Garp, the hero of the Marines. Your grandfather." Luffy beamed proudly, nodding. "Yep, that's him." Zoro turned to Hancock in disbelief. "Did you know about this?" Hancock smiled, a mischievous glint in her eyes. "Yes, I did. I've met him a couple of times. He really likes me," she said playfully, enjoying the attention. Alvida crossed her arms, brow furrowing in confusion. "So, Red-haired Shanks is your uncle, Garp the Fist is your grandfather, who the hell are your parents? Luffy's grin broadened, the enthusiasm pooling in his soul as he replied, I'll tell you once we get our ship ready. It's a bit of a story, full of adventure. He then turned to Commander Ripper, who was watching the exchanges with a mix of respect and concern. Oh, Commander, you will need to write up a report when my grandpa arrives, Luffy instructed him. And in that report, write that the Shadow Dragon pirates took down Morgan. Hancock chuckled in delight as she absorbed their new identity. So that's our name, she mused, her heart swelling with pride. Luffy nodded enthusiastically, the thrill of the title resonating within him. Yes, the Shadow Dragon Pirates. It fits, don't you think? Kobe, who had been observing quietly, couldn't help but pipe up. That's an awesome name. It really captures the spirit of adventure you all embody. Thank you, Kobe, Luffy exclaimed, his enthusiasm infectious. Alvida shook her head in amusement. You've certainly created quite the spectacle, Luffy. I guess if we're going to be part of this crew, we might as well ride that wave. 2 days later, Luffy, Hancock, Zoro, Nami, Alvida, Kobe, and Salome gathered on the deck of their newly remodeled ship, the Shadow's Sorrow. The vessel was a magnificent sight, cloaked in all black with a striking dragon figurehead at the bow, while the newly reinforced structure made it sturdier and faster than ever before. The pièce de résistance was the Jolly Roger emblazoned proudly on the sails, a dragon's skull entwined with darkness, a testament to their crew's identity. Luffy stood at the forefront, a spark of excitement lighting up his eyes. All right, crew, it's time for a meeting, he announced, everyone's attention. With all eyes on him, Luffy raised his glass in a toast. To the birth of the Shadow Dragon pirates. May we conquer the seas together. Cheers. The crew echoed in unison, their spirits soaring high as the sound of clinking glasses filled the air. Once the mood lightened again, Luffy took a deep breath, suddenly feeling a rush of confidence as he looked at Zoro, Hancock, and the rest of the crew. So you asked me about my parents, he said, his voice firm. Well, I'll tell you. My dad is this guy. He pulled out a wanted poster that read Monkey D. Dragon, wanted, dead or alive, 6 billion belly. Shockwaves rippled through the crew as they stared at the poster, their minds racing. No way, Nami exclaimed, eyes wide. Dragon, the leader of the Revolutionary Army. Kobe added, disbelief flaring in his expression. Yep, that's him, Luffy confirmed, a hint of pride swelling within him. But that's not all, Luffy said, continuing to reveal his lineage. He then pulled out another poster, this one adorned with a striking image of a woman. This is my mother, red-haired Lilith. Wanted, dead or alive, 5,500 million belly. The revelation sent everyone reeling, their jaws dropped. You're the son of both Dragon and Lilith? Zoro asked incredulously, his cool demeanor gone. Absolutely, Luffy said, beaming. Hancock couldn't help but smile as she noted the expressions of awe surrounding her. I already knew. Lilith trained me and Luffy for nearly 4 years. Let me tell you, the name she's earned as the She-Devil is well deserved, she added, pride mingling with her admiration. That's incredible. You're connected to legends, Alvida remarked, respect shifting in her tone. I guess we're all going to make a name for ourselves as well, Zoro said, his competitive spirit resurfacing. The crew buzzed with excitement as they processed the information. New possibilities unfolded before them, waves of adventure were now within their reach, ready to be conquered by the formidable Shadow Dragon pirates. On the deck of the Shadow's Sorrow, the atmosphere was electric with energy as Nami, Alvida, and Kobe engaged in training to adapt to their new devil fruit powers. Each day brought fresh challenges and discoveries, and they were committed to harnessing their abilities to their fullest potential. Nami had spent hours practicing her transformations, and now she could seamlessly switch into her hybrid form, a striking blend of her human and panther appearances. She reveled in the agility and speed, feeling an exhilarating sense of freedom each time she leapt through the air. This is incredible, Nami shouted, grinning from ear to ear as she bounded across the deck. Alvida, having gotten accustomed to her newfound slippery body, practiced wielding her mace with newfound confidence and grace. With a few swings, she demonstrated a better command of herself than before. Look at me, no more slipping, she exclaimed, a playful sparkle in her eyes. Kobe, on the other hand, was honing his rubber powers, mastering the art of stretching his arms and legs while delivering powerful punches and kicks. "I can feel it clicking," he shouted, exhilaration pouring through him as he landed a well-aimed kick that stretched several meters away. Meanwhile, Zoro opted not to consume a devil fruit but instead sparred with Luffy, exchanging blows with swords. The two stood across from one another, swords at the ready to test their mettle. Luffy wielded Shadow Slicer with an effortless confidence, a testament to his training and growth over the last few months. As their swords clashed, Zoro began to realize just how much stronger Luffy is. "You're not holding back, are you?" Zoro grunted, focusing intently on the fight as he tried to keep pace. "Not at all. I'm training too," Luffy replied, grinning with energy. The duel was only intensifying the bond and rivalry they shared, pushing each other further with every clash. After a particularly intense exchange, Luffy broke the rhythm, curiosity sparking in his eyes. "Hey, Zoro, what about that white sword of yours? The one that's really high quality?" Zoro lowered his sword, pausing for a moment. "It was a gift from my master," he explained, recalling the memory fondly. "It belonged to my childhood friend, Kuina, who passed away in an accident. This sword carries her spirit and my promise to become the best swordsman." Luffy's expression turned serious as he contemplated Zoro's words. "I understand. Honoring your friend is important. I can see how much it means to you," he said with sincerity. "Yeah, and I'll train harder to make sure her memory lives on. I want to be worthy of this sword," Zoro replied resolutely, gripping the hilt tighter as determination filled the air. As the evening wore on and laughter filled the air at their makeshift dinner, Luffy turned to Zoro, curiosity sparking in his eyes. "So, how did you become a bounty hunter anyway?" Zoro took a moment to think back and then began, "At my dojo, I decided to go for a walk one day." He paused, pointing in a direction that surprisingly turned out to be more north than east. Luffy furrowed his brow. "You're pointing north, but you say you're going east?" he questioned, tilting his head in confusion. "Whatever. Just let me finish the story," Zoro replied, a hint of annoyance creeping into his tone as he continued. 3 days later, I ended up on an island that was 300 kilometers away from the dojo where I trained. I was starving, and bounty hunting seemed like a good way to make fast money, so I figured I'd give it a shot. Luffy couldn't contain his laughter any longer. His laughter rang out like a bell, echoing through the ship as he doubled over in amusement. "So let me get this straight. You went for a walk, got lost, and ended up 300 kilometers away. Man, you definitely have no sense of direction." Hancock, intrigued by what was causing Luffy's outburst, leaned in closer to listen, while nearby, Alvida and Kobe exchanged glances, joining Luffy's raucous laughter. It didn't take long for them to figure out what was so funny. "What's going on?" Alvida asked, unable to suppress her smile. Luffy, still trying to catch his breath between giggles, replied, "Zoro got lost on a walk and ended up on an island way far from where he was supposed to be." The group started to laugh, and Zoro crossed his arms, attempting to appear annoyed, but the corners of his mouth twitched, betraying his amusement. "It's not funny. You try finding your way when you've got nothing to guide you." "No kidding," Kobe chimed in, stifling his laughter. "I can't believe you ended up so far from home," Hancock added, her amusement mixing with admiration for Zoro's resilience. "That takes a different kind of talent." "Real impressive, Zoro," Luffy teased, still chuckling. "Just when I thought you were tough, it turns out you can't even walk in a straight line." The first light of dawn crept over the horizon as Luffy and Hancock called the crew together on the deck of the Shadow's Sorrow. Excitement buzzed in the air. It was time for a new phase of their training, learning to harness haki. "All right, everyone, gather around," Luffy shouted, his enthusiasm infectious as he bounced in place. Nami furrowed her brow, puzzled. "What's haki?" she asked, feeling somewhat lost in the whirlwind of excitement. Hancock stepped forward, prepared to explain. "Haki is your willpower. There are 3 types: observation haki, armament haki, and, the rarest of them all, the King's Will, also known as Conqueror's haki. Only 1 in a million possesses it, but both Luffy and I can use it." As the crew listened intently, Luffy grinned, eager to demonstrate. "I'll go first with observation haki." He blindfolded himself, excitement sparkling in his eyes. "Hit me, Hancock." Hancock smirked, preparing herself. As her fist connected with air and Luffy easily dodged her, gasps echoed from the crew. How did he do that? Nami muttered, astonished at Luffy's reflexes. It's all about sensing what's around you, Hancock explained, nodding in approval. When you sharpen your observation haki, you'll be able to predict movements before they happen. Next, Hancock demonstrated armament haki. Her hand glowed black as she concentrated, showcasing the dual nature of offense and defense that haki allowed. This is armament haki. It can enhance your attacks or fortify your defenses. She then turned to Alvida. Pass me your mace for demonstration. Alvida handed Hancock the mace, her eyes wide with anticipation. Hancock infused the weapon with armament haki, her hand glowing as she swung it with precision. The impact was startling, the air around the mace crackling with energy. See how much stronger it becomes, she remarked, showcasing the might of haki. With the demonstrations concluded, Luffy decided it was time to split the crew into pairs for practice. Alright, let's get to work. Alvida and Nami are one team, and Kobe and Zoro are the other, he announced, eager to see how they each adapted to the new skills. As the pairs began their training, Luffy's enthusiasm surged, guiding them through each exercise. Kobe and Zoro, both blindfolded, were set into a sparring match. Luffy chuckled as he observed, but he also kept an eye, concerned for both of their well-being. Don't worry, Zoro. Just focus on your other senses. Luffy encouraged as Kobe swung wildly, accidentally hitting Zoro in the side of the head. I can't see. How do you expect me to focus? Zoro grumbled, rubbing his head. Keep going, Nami shouted, trying to find the balance as she dodged Alvida's swings, giggling at the hilarity of the situation. Hancock, meanwhile, watched over them all, ready to intervene if necessary. This is the first day, and you'll get the hang of it soon, she reassured Luffy, sensing his growing concern. As time continued to pass, the exercise transitioned from embarrassing misses to a stronger sense of awareness as they adjusted to their new haki abilities. With each swing and parry, the team grew stronger not just physically but as individuals. 2 days LRUELING hockey training session, Luffy and Hancock took a moment to relax on the deck of the Shadow's Sorrow, soaking up the sun. Luffy had pulled his sunglasses down over his eyes, reclining comfortably, while Hancock savored the works of their efforts in peace. Their tranquil moment was interrupted as Nami approached, hands on her hips, radiating authority. Hey, you two. As the navigator, tell me, what's our next course? Luffy, still basking in the warmth, pulled down his sunglasses and casually replied, easy. I have 2 courses planned. The first is using that map you got while we were fighting Morgan. Great job, by the way. Nami's expression brightened at his compliment, pride swelling at his acknowledgement. Thanks. And what's the second course? Luffy grinned, excitement bubbling within him. We're heading to Syrup Village on the Gecko Islands to recruit our sniper. Hancock's brow furrowed slightly in thought. Syrup Village. Isn't that where Yasop is from? Yep, that's right. Luffy nodded emphatically. I plan to see if his son is as good as his dad. Then, we can recruit him. But first, we're going to Orange Town to see Buggy the Clown and discover if he's really the same as Shanks described or just the idiot that Mom talked about. Nami laughed, shaking her head. Buggy the Clown, seriously? You want to bring that guy onto our crew? What's wrong with Buggy? Luffy asked playfully, genuinely interested in Nami's thoughts. He's a former member of the Roger Pirates. He must have some skills. Or he could just be a complete fool. I mean, who really knows with him? Nami smirked, already amused by the prospect of dealing with Buggy. Hey, we'll figure it out. Luffy replied, but I'd like to meet him anyways, just to see with my own eyes. Hancock smiled warmly at Luffy's enthusiasm. I trust your judgments, Luffy. We'll meet him, it could be an interesting encounter. Alright, then, Nami said, now fully involved in their planning. What's the next step? We set sail for Orange Town, then Syrup Village, Luffy declared, rising to his feet. We'll make sure to prepare for whatever awaits us. As the Shadow's Sorrow approached Orange Town, a sense of unease settled over the crew. It only took 2 hours to reach their destination, but as they sailed into the harbor and set foot on the docks, it quickly became evident that they had arrived in a ghost town. The streets were eerily quiet, and the buildings appeared neglected, with signs of decay and disrepair lining the paths. An unsettling stillness hung in the air, whispering of the town's lost vibrancy. Luffy, undeterred by the desolation, grinned widely. "Let's find Buggy. He can't be that far away." Just as they began exploring, 3 thugs emerged from the shadows, blocking their path. Their postures were threatening, and they smirked maliciously. "You're in the territory of Buggy the Clown. You best turn back," one of them warned, attempting to sound intimidating. "Hey, Luffy," Hancock murmured, glancing sideways at him, "how should we deal with these guys?" Luffy's excitement was infectious as he grinned. "Nami, use these idiots to scratch your claws." Nami, with a determined glint in her eyes, nodded without hesitation. In an instant, she transformed into her panther hybrid mode, sleek black fur shimmering in the sunlight as her eyes glowed with newfound sharpness. The 3 thugs exchanged confused looks, their bravado quickly evaporating. "Wait, what the?" one of them stuttered, backing away in fright. With her feline agility, Nami lunged forward, poised to strike as the thugs hastily turned to flee. "You're not getting away that easily," she called out, landing a few swift strikes with her claws. "Run!" one of the thugs yelled, panic evident in his voice as they dashed away, their earlier bravado crumbling. Luffy and Hancock burst into laughter as they watched the would-be intimidators scramble for safety. "What a bunch of weaklings!" Luffy exclaimed, feeling victorious. Nami returned to her human form, a proud smile on her face. "They were too afraid to even fight back," she said, her confidence soaring. As Luffy, Hancock, and the rest of the crew ventured deeper into Orange Town, they passed a quaint pet store. A scruffy dog sat in front of the doorway, appearing aloof and unimpressed by the bustling activity around him. Curiosity piqued, Luffy approached the dog, eager to pet it. "Hey there, little guy," he said cheerfully, stretching out his hand. But the moment he poked the dog, it snapped at him, sinking its teeth painfully into Luffy's arm. "Ow, let go, you damn mutt," Luffy shouted, trying to shake the dog off, who stubbornly held onto his arm with an expression of fierce loyalty. At that moment, an elderly man appeared, his brow furrowed in concern. "What are you doing tormenting poor Chakyu?" he exclaimed, rushing to help. With gentle hands, he pried the dog away from Luffy, who was rubbing his sore arm. The old man, noted as the mayor of Orange Town, looked at Luffy with a mix of annoyance and pity. "Chakyu is a protector of this town. He guards the pet shop like it's his life's mission." As Luffy and the mayor exchanged pleasantries, the elder began to share Chakyu's backstory. "You see, Chakyu has been here for years, defending the shop from thieves and troublemakers. But recently, things have changed. Buggy the Clown has been terrorizing the town, causing chaos and distress. We need help." Luffy and his friends exchanged concerned glances. "We're here to deal with Buggy and help the town," Luffy declared firmly. Just then, a man riding a large, fearsome lion entered the scene, exuding an aura of confidence. "Step aside, old man. I'm here to rob this pet shop," he bellowed, his eyes glinting with malice. Luffy's jaw tightened as he stepped forward, blocking the man's path. "You won't be robbing anyone while we're here," he said, his voice resolute. The man sneered, introducing himself. "I am Moji, the beast tamer. I can tame any beast, including that pathetic dog." He gestured toward Chakyu, who barked defiantly. Luffy, contemplating Moji's challenge, felt a smirk forming on his lips. "Any beast, huh? Well, then, how about you tame this?" he said with a bewitching grin. Before Moji could react, Luffy transformed into his dragon form, towering over the scene at an impressive height. Smoke billowed from his massive nostrils, and he lowered his great head down close to Moji, the intensity of his gaze unwavering. "I'm ready. Try and tame me." Richie, the lion, immediately turned tail in fear, hastily retreating, leaving Moji standing there, his face paler than before. Luffy swung his tail playfully, laughing at the sight of Moji's moment of panic. Well, that was fun, Luffy thought to himself, reverting back to his human form. As he straightened up, the tension in the air relaxed as they regained their composure. As they made their way toward Buggy's base, Nami spotted Richie hiding behind a barrel a few paces away. "Hey, you," she called gently. "Don't worry, I won't hurt you. Here, have some snacks." She produced some treats she had saved from their supplies and tossed them towards the lion. Richie sniffed the air curiously before slowly approaching Nami, captivated by the smell of the food. To everyone's astonishment, Richie accepted the snacks eagerly. "You're sweet," Nami cooed, smiling at the lion. "Do you want to be my pet?" Richie nodded, clearly warming up to Nami. Zoro, watching the scene unfold, crossed his arms with a smirk. "Yeah, not the loyal type, is he?" Nami shot him an annoyed look, though she couldn't help but laugh at the absurdity of it all. "This lion isn't just an ordinary beast. He needs a friend like me." Inside the raucous base of Buggy the Clown, the atmosphere was tense. Buggy paced back and forth, his face flushed with anger as he scolded the three thugs who had fled in panic during the earlier commotion with Luffy, Hancock, and Nami. "You fools! How dare you run? You're making me, the great Captain Buggy, look bad." He barked, his hands gesturing animatedly as he raged. Suddenly, Moji rushed in, his face pale with fear. "Captain Buggy, a monster is on this island, and he has eaten poor Richie," he exclaimed, huffing from the exertion of running. "A monster?" Buggy asked incredulously, rolling his eyes. "Don't be ridiculous, Moji. Don't forget, I am the great Captain Buggy. With my chop chop fruit and my buggy ball, I will rule the East Blue." He puffed out his chest with pride, trying to rally the fading morale of his crew. Just then, a voice broke through the tension, dripping with sarcasm. "You really are an idiot, and boy, is that nose ugly." Buggy's eyes widened in fury as he turned to see who had the audacity to mock him. "Who said that?" he growled, feeling the familiar pangs of his pride stirring. As Luffy stepped into the base with his crew beside him, Hancock, Zoro, Nami, Kobe, Alvida, and Salome, the mood shifted instantly. Buggy's bravado deflated, fear creeping into his eyes as he recognized the young pirate before him. "Monkey D. Luffy. Boa Hancock," he stammered, his voice trembling. "No, it can't be. You're supposed to be on Shanks' ship in the New World. Has he finally decided to kill me?" "Nope," Luffy said cheerfully, a wide grin on his face. "He told me to check up on you, and I must say, he and Rayleigh would be ashamed if they saw you like this. How did a former member of Roger's crew end up being a low-level pirate in the East Blue? My mom was right, you are an idiot." Buggy, still visibly shaken, suddenly connected the dots. His eyes widened with fear and realization as he looked directly into Luffy's gaze. "Wait, you said your mother, is Lilith your mother?" he stuttered, sweat beading on his forehead. Luffy nodded, his expression calm and matter-of-fact. "Yeah, she is. And she told me you were an idiot. Be thankful that Shanks still considers you a friend, otherwise, she would have killed you a long time ago." At the mention of Lilith's name, Buggy's heart raced. He recalled the stories of her ferocity and power, and the nightmares that had haunted him since their last encounter. A nervous laugh escaped him, but it did little to mask his apprehension. "Please, don't tell her I said anything," he pleaded, doing his best to regain some sense of composure. The fear of the she-devil lingered within him, a reminder of the weight of his past. Seeing Buggy's deterioration resonated with a hint of pity in Luffy's heart. "Look, I'm not here to destroy you, Buggy. How about an alliance between our crews?" Luffy proposed, surprising everyone with his unexpected generosity. "No more attacking civilians. We can work together to leave the past behind." The tension hung in the air as Buggy processed Luffy's offer, his eyes darting between the determined faces of Luffy, Hancock, Zoro, and the rest of the crew. "An alliance," he echoed, contemplating the situation and the potential benefits it could bring. Luffy punctuated his offer with a firm nod. "Yeah, think about it. We can help each other out, and you won't have to live in fear of being taken down by us." Buggy, seeing no better option, took a deep breath and extended his hand. "All right, I agree. No more attacking civilians. We'll work together." As the two captains shook hands, solidifying their new alliance, the atmosphere shifted once more, a sense of renewed hope filling the room. Meanwhile, Moji stood awkwardly nearby, trying to regain his authority. "Richie, come back. I am your master," he called, attempting to assert his control over the lion. Richie raised his head slowly, then defiantly extended his claw and pointed his middle finger at Moji, a clear sign of rebellion. The audacity left Moji stunned as Richie turned to Nami, his new caretaker, a glint of understanding in his eyes. "Looks like he's chosen," Nami exclaimed, delight sparkling in her gaze. I guess he's done with you. Moji's face paled as he stuttered, you can't just take my lion. He's mine. But there was no denying it, the bond between Richie and Nami had formed. With Richie now by her side, Nami felt empowered. With her newfound allies, she knew they would all face whatever challenges lay ahead together. As the shadow's sorrow sailed smoothly away from the eerie silence of Orange Town, a sense of camaraderie enveloped the crew. Hancock took on the responsibility of overseeing their ongoing hockey training, guiding each member to harness their abilities effectively. Meanwhile, in the ship's private quarters, Luffy had been busy at work, scribbling notes and drawing diagrams, consumed by thoughts of their future. After a long day of training and activities, he emerged from the room with a stack of charts and papers, a triumphant grin plastered across his face. I'm done, he announced, entering the common area where the crew was gathered for dinner. Kobe looked up, curious. Done with what? Before Luffy could respond, Hancock chimed in, brushing a few stray hairs behind her ear. Luffy's been working on our crew roster. He has some important updates for us. As everyone leaned in, Luffy spread the papers across the table, presenting his carefully compiled roster to the crew. Check it out, he said, his excitement unmistakable. The roster listed their positions. The Shadow Dragon Pirates. Captain, Monkey D. Luffy. Vice Captain, Boa Hancock. Helmswoman, Alvida. Navigator, Nami. Cabin Boy and Captain's Apprentice, Kobe. Pets and Mascots, Richie and Salome. Quartermaster, Zoro. The crew stared in shock, their expressions a mix of surprise and admiration. Quartermaster Zoro. Zoro repeated, raising an eyebrow. You really think I'd be fit for that role? Of course, Luffy replied enthusiastically. They discussed other roles that still needed to be filled, and Luffy continued, but we still need a cook and an assistant cook, a sniper, a medic or nurse, a doctor, a scholar, a deckhand, oh, and, he turned to Hancock with a cheeky smile, we need a pastry chef as well. Hancock felt a warm blush spread across her cheeks at the thought of a pastry chef. Well, yes, a pastry chef would be nice, she admitted, trying to maintain her composure. But we also need a treasurer, a gunner or two and a musician. She pointed to Zoro with a playful grin and continued, and Nami will teach him the basics of navigation. Just to make sure he doesn't get lost again. Everyone chuckled at the thought, but Zoro frowned. I'm perfectly capable of finding my way. Hancock smirked, is that so? What about the time you walked into our room thinking it was the bathroom? Flashback. Luffy and Hancock were peacefully sleeping in the captain's quarters, the soft sounds of the sea lulling them into a deep slumber. Suddenly, the door creaked open, and Zoro wandered in, blinking against the dim light. Oops, sorry. I thought this was the toilet, he muttered, realization dawning as he quickly backed out of the room. Flashback ends. Hancock couldn't help but laugh, shaking her head at the memory. So if you get lost on the ship again, no booze for a month. Is that clear? She declared, her tone teasing but firm. Hearing this, the rest of the crew burst into laughter, each finding amusement in Zoro's embarrassing past mishap. Zoro crossed his arms, pretending to be annoyed. You all find this funny, huh? His smirk softened the seriousness of his expression. I'll show you I can navigate just fine. Luffy, always the instigator, leaned back, grinning. I'm sure you will, but just be careful where you're going. We can't have you wandering into our rooms again. Nami chimed in, joining the laughter. And I'll make sure your navigation lessons include how to identify bathrooms. You never know when it could come in handy. The next morning aboard sun shone brightly over the horizon. Luffy was dedicated to training Zoro on the deck, pushing his limits and challenging him as they practiced sword techniques. Meanwhile, Hancock and Nami were sunbathing nearby, enjoying the warmth of the day alongside Salome, who coiled comfortably at Hancock's side, and Richie the lion, who lounged lazily in the sun. As Hancock settled into a relaxed position, she turned to Nami, curious about something that had been on her mind. Nami, she began, her voice veiled with sincerity, why haven't you covered up Arlong's mark yet? Nami paused for a moment, gazing off into the distance before answering. It's simple. As long as that monster is alive, it serves as a reminder for me. It's a symbol of the pain and the fight I've endured. When he's dead, and I reclaim my freedom, then I'll remove it and get something new, she explained, her voice steady. Hancock nodded, understanding the weight of Nami's words. That makes sense. I can relate to wanting to remember the battle scars of the past. In a way, they shape who we become, she responded. Nami's gaze shifted to Hancock's tattoos, admiring their artistry. Those tattoos are nice, especially the one on your back. It has a deep meaning, doesn't it? Hancock smiled softly, pride glimmering in her eyes. Yes, the one on my back was to cover up my mark as a slave. Me and my sisters have the same tattoo on our backs, a representation of our unbreakable bond. It reminds us of each other and the struggles we've faced. Nami felt a rush of empathy for Hancock. That must mean a lot to you, she said sincerely. Oh, by the way, Nami interjected, recalling a previous conversation. Back in Shell's town, Luffy asked me if Arlong had a sun tattoo. Why is that important? And why did you mention Jinbei should come here? Hancock nodded, her expression turning serious. The sun tattoo is the mark of the Sun Pirates, and Jinbei was their captain before becoming a warlord. He fights for humans to see fishmen as equals. If Arlong is as bad as you say, then it's crucial that Jinbei knows what his former crewmate is doing to humans. Nami's brow furrowed, feeling the implications of their situation weighing upon her. So, you think Jinbei would actually intervene? That he'd stand up against Arlong? Absolutely, Hancock replied with conviction. Jinbei has always cared about justice and righting wrongs, especially when it comes to his people. If he learns of Arlong's actions, he'll want to act. Under the brilliant sun, Luffy and Zoro stood on the deck of the Shadow's Sorrow, the vibrant sounds of their crew bustling around them creating a lively backdrop for training. Zoro, feeling the weight of his journey to become the world's strongest swordsman, grunted in frustration. Man, I can't even hit you. I know you're holding back. He shook his head, frustration evident as he swung one of his swords, barely grazing Luffy. Luffy, an indomitable grin plastered on his face, replied, "Yeah, I am. But you're learning fast. That Sanchuri style of yours is pretty cool." He watched as Zoro trained diligently, taking in the form and technique with careful consideration. "I've shown you how to do flying blade attacks with your blades, and you're getting there," Luffy continued. "But know this, Dracula Mahawk, Shanks, Rayleigh, and my mom, Lilith, they can slice a large galleon in half without breaking a sweat. You've got a long way to go." Zoro's expression hardened, determination returning to his eyes. "Luffy, I want you to fight me with your full power," he said suddenly, his tone serious. "Really? Are you sure?" Luffy asked, surprised by Zoro's request. "Yeah, I am," Zoro insisted, his resolve unwavering. "I want to see just how much stronger you've become. Don't hold back." With a sense of respect for Zoro's ambition, Luffy nodded. "All right, let's do this." He began the transformation into his hybrid form, his powerful muscles rippling and covered in glimmering scales. His wings sprouted from his back and horns emerged from his head as he stood towering at 4 meters tall, both awe-inspiring and fearsome. With Shadow Slicer and Day Slicer gripped tightly in his hands, he enveloped both blades with Haki and Shadow energy, ready to spar. "Show me what you've got." Zoro's stance shifted, his determination stealing as he prepared to unleash his most powerful technique. He charged at Luffy with speed and precision, a fierce look in his eyes as he swung his swords, aiming to catch Luffy off guard. But in the blink of an eye, with one swift slash, Luffy knocked all 3 of Zoro's swords out of his hands and mouth, the 2 lower quality blades shattering in the process. "Wah!" Zoro exclaimed, his eyes wide as realization dawned on him. He couldn't believe how easily Luffy had disarmed him. The force behind Luffy's slashing blow reverberated through the air. "That's my true power, Zoro," Luffy declared, a mix of exhilaration and pride radiating from him. He transformed back into his human form, standing over the broken swords and watching as Zoro processed the rapid turn of events. Zoro, momentarily shocked, took a breath to collect his thoughts. The respect he held for Luffy's strength deepened, and within that realization, a fire ignited within him. "I need to train harder. You're incredible, Luffy." As Zoro slowly got to his feet, a fire of determination sparked in his eyes. Defeated but not discouraged, he turned to Luffy. "I won't let that happen again. I'm going to get stronger," he vowed, clenching his fists tightly. Luffy patted him on the back, his trademark grin lighting up his face. "Don't worry, I'll help you get back on your feet." And I promise I'll get you 2 new swords to replace the ones you shattered." Zoro nodded appreciatively, grateful for Luffy's support. The bond between them had solidified further through their training and challenges, and he felt more resolved than ever. "Thanks, Luffy. I appreciate that." At that moment, Hancock approached the 2 men, her expression brightening the atmosphere. "We're approaching Gecko Island," she announced, a hint of excitement lacing her voice. Luffy's excitement bubbled over. "Good. If Usopp's son, Usopp, is anything like his dad, then he should be a great shot and a valuable member for our crew." That is it for this chapter. Hope you like it. I added a couple of extra things here. The next chapter will be when they meet a certain long-nosed liar. See you soon.